Dreaming of a Freaking Fairy Tale's Fairy Godmother Episode 6 opens with the narrator declaring that Act 2 has begun. Doug Jane, a staff member, asserts that Chamin will not decline a second kiss if he likes J-Rim. Right now, Chamin ignores his gut and withdraws from the kiss. In addition to pressuring her to visit Do-hong's studio, he offers to act as her fairy godmother by getting her the appropriate attire. J-Rim thinks he isn't interested in her because of his extreme enthusiasm at the store. He criticizes her fashion choices and buys her everything he wants, so they end up arguing as they often do. He writes on the shopping bags that only he can manage her poor fashion sense, so she should wear what she likes. The age-old move of teasing your crush. He hates pulling back, but he can't stop thinking about the nearly second kiss. As her fairy godmother, he tries to ruin their studio date but unintentionally rings Young Bae. The newly discovered rumor that Do-hong is a womanizer and has slept with every woman in his previous clubs is shared by the secretary. Chamin goes to Do-hong's studio feeling anxious. Do-hong brags at the studio about how his parents encouraged him to pursue his passions and helped him succeed. He'll assist J-Rim as well. He's asked her to create a storyboard for his upcoming movie. She can't stop thinking about Chamin, and he tells her that since he likes her, she shouldn't discuss her employer. She moves away as he goes to plant a kiss on her. A commotion is heard, and they discover that his brother has intruded. Do-hong appears to transfer money to his family, while the brother appears to spend money quickly, leading to a heated argument between the brothers. J-Rim is informed by the brother that Do-hong is not telling the truth and that he made his money by penning boy love novels. He gets put in his place by J-Rim, who says there's nothing wrong with it and walks away. Do-hong begs her to keep it a secret because the elite won't accept anybody like them in because he is still embarrassed. She walks away after telling him to be true to himself. When he sees her, Chamin, who is waiting outside, dials her phone. She ends his call since she doesn't understand what guys desire. When he arrives at work early the following day, he is bursting to find out what occurred, but she walks right by. Danae appears as she apologizes to J-Rim for kissing Chamin, causing trouble. She says it's like watching a fun dating show, so they made a bet to assist J-Rim find her Prince Charming. Danae wants to chastise Chamin for going too far, though. J-Rim retorts, saying that Chamin is a good kisser and that she is okay with it. Danae is upset by herself and finds that chanting premium labels would not make her feel better. She yells, "Prada." Sadly, J-Rim is impacted by Danae's remarks since she recognizes that Chamin is behaving like a child toward her. She appears thoughtful, and he becomes concerned that anything may have occurred to her at Do-hong's. She confronts him for repeatedly making fun of her and playing games with her. She warns him to keep out of her affairs, but he apologizes because all he wants to do is help. Danae, in the meantime, snaps at her uncles for J-Rim and orders them to grab hot bread from the opposite side of the tun. To please Danae, they decide to abduct J-Rim in order to fulfill their desire to become their own bosses. Naturally, there is chaos during the kidnapping since J-Rim cuts herself by accident and the uncles abandon her alone and tied up because they are so hungry. When Siri is unable to comprehend her, she ends up contacting her friend Sunjong instead of 911. She was meant to meet Sunjong after work, it turns out. Sunjong, who is worried, arrives at Cheongdam and encounters Chamin. He tries to keep his distance from J-Rim and just keeps Sunjong company. J-Rim calls right as she tries to make a move on him. She says she's in an abandoned Macjiali factory, and Chamin is exactly familiar with the location. A flashback shows him being abducted as a youngster and him rushing to her. The uncles at the location promise to release J-Rim as long as she pledges to leave Cheongdam. She declines since finding a work is hard, a good reason, in GL. She gives in after they threaten to shave her head, which would make it impossible